Hey everyone, welcome back to the Beamer Barn. In today's episode, we're going to be doing something a little bit different than our regularly scheduled programming because we're going to be helping out one of my fellow neighbors with a car that he recently bought. Now, I know a lot of people have been buying cars from the auction, and it looks like my friend bought one from the auction here, sight unseen, literally at the click of a button on his computer. And now the car has arrived, and it actually is a no-start car. So we're hoping that we can replace the starter in this thing. I made the recommendation that we also change the crank position sensor because that's a common problem as well on these things. But the car is now in front of my house and we're going to be trying to work on it and hopefully get this car started. The owner doesn't know how many cylinders it runs on. Obviously, we hope that it runs on all the cylinders and that there's no issues. But obviously, like I said, they don't know what condition the motor is in, how the car drives. They haven't even driven the car. They just bought it a couple weeks ago. So today, I'm going to be taking you guys on the exciting journey of getting this car started. And hopefully, we have good news to bring to them when we do get it started. So let's get straight into today's video. So here is the car. Got the key right here. We can unlock it. Taking a look at the backside here, you can see he hasn't even registered it yet, so we don't have any plates. It's got a sticker right here. And then here are the markings. So obviously this car just got out of auction. That's what all these stickers are here for. And probably the only cosmetic damage that I see besides the missing kidney grills is this front windshield crack right here. And I think that's the only thing that they marked on the car. We don't see any other markings on the body that would indicate that something is damaged, bent, or bad. I don't know if they mark anything on the motor, but I haven't even popped the hood on this car yet. So let's go ahead, pop the hood. You can see interior is in pretty good condition. Oh, there you go. I forgot where the button is on these. Here is our motor. It is an N55. Thank you to the plane passing overhead. This is an N55 motor, so pretty stock setup. You can see here. There you go. There's a marking from the salvage yard. Looks like everything is plugged in. Looks normal here in the engine bay. Maybe a little bit dirty, crusty, but that's pretty normal for these cars. Something that I've noticed a lot on these X5s is that the suspension mounts, when they get worn, they'll actually like poke through here. A lot of people forget to replace the suspension, the strut mounts here in the front. Those look fine. So obviously, like I said, we just have some parts to install. So we've got some parts to install here. You can probably recognize that blue tape. So we've got a starter and a crank position sensor, and also some intake manifold gaskets because we're gonna have to pull that off in order to service the starter. So have all that right here, hoping that the car just starts up when we get that starter, because currently, you know, we can put the key in the ignition, just makes a clicking noise. So that pretty much tells us that it's the starter. So it's the end of the day here in sunshiny Florida, and it's really hot outside, but I wanted to take this opportunity to fix the car before it gets super hot out again. Hopefully we can get it fixed between now and tomorrow morning before the sun comes out, so before noon tomorrow. So that's my challenge today, is to get this car started, and let's see if we can do it in time. Now once you've got the air box and the engine cover out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and remove the charge pipe. So you've got one hose clamp at the bottom here, a couple of vacuum lines that are held in by these clipped hoses, and then the map sensor, which I like to use a flathead to get the sensor connector loose. And then you're gonna disconnect the major clip for the charge pipe and go ahead and slip it out. Now, since we're going to be working on the starter and thus the battery charging system, we're going to go ahead and disconnect our battery, and then we're going to engage the lock on the trunk mechanism so that it doesn't lock us out later when we need to reconnect this thing. Now, one of the key differences with the N55 platform is that it uses a DME that's built into the intake manifold, kind of like the S55 motor. So in order to get the intake manifold off, you're going to have to remove all the connectors, and I would make sure to note which orientation they are and what order they're in so we don't get them mixed up. But they are sleeved a certain way, so you cannot really get them in the wrong positions. But again, you just want to make sure you're not putting anything where it shouldn't be. So once you've got all those electrical connectors out of the way, you can go ahead and move on to getting the intake manifold loose. And remember to get the throttle body connector that's under there, as well as the vacuum line for the purge canister. And that should be everything that you need in order to get it out of the way. Alrighty, well, got the starter out, and I'm gonna pull out the crank position sensor. On the N55s, they're a little weird, but I'm noticing that there's this little piece of metal here. I don't know what this is from. I don't see anywhere immediately that I could determine that this is from, but it's definitely metal. Not sure if it's from the engine either. It's a pretty sharp corner, but we'll have to see. Maybe this came off the starter. Maybe it's unrelated. Maybe there's a hole in the block somewhere that we don't know about yet. So let's keep our eyes open. But for now, we're going to pull off the crank position sensor, and then we'll take a look at all of our new parts. So it is dark outside, but we have all of the parts out that we need to replace, so I just laid them side by side to compare really quick. Like I said, I recommended doing the crank position sensor because these things fail so commonly. You know, they're right on the block, so they are exposed to a lot of heat, and when they fail, they'll leave you with a no start condition. The starter, we have an aftermarket one. This is made by Valio, but it's in the same size, same spec, so it's gonna fit up good. And then of course, since we pulled off the intake manifold, we have to replace the intake manifold gaskets as well. Half of them stuck to the block, half of them came out with the intake manifold. So we're gonna be replacing them all with fresh ones here. And you know, what's cool is that this crank position sensor, it's got this little screw in here, but you cannot actually back it out to the point where it'll fall out. So that makes this really easy and safe to install. And you know, just one thing that I guess that they improved on the N55 versus the N54. So let's get right back to installing these parts in the car, and hopefully we'll have this done pretty quickly. Moment of truth. Time to see if she even has enough juice to start up right now. I think they put a fresh battery in it, so key in. Wish us luck. Well, she started. Try that again. Uh-oh. Let's see, does she have fuel? Oh, that's got fuel. All right, well, she starts. Doesn't run yet. Well, good morning, everyone. It is the next morning here, and the X5 has not moved from its spot last night. As you saw, we almost got the car started. Obviously, the starter is fixed now, but it doesn't seem to be starting, and I think that it is a fuel problem. So I've got my jump pack right here. We're gonna go ahead, see if we can try jumping it, and we're gonna check if there's fuel pressure at the rail by just pulling off one of the lines. Go ahead and put this key in, prime the system. Take this off, and here we have our high pressure fuel lines. There should be some pressure in here. Something should come out. That tells us something. No fuel. Look at that, nothing. And I'll even try to crank the car, and that way you guys can tell me if some fuel comes out from right there. Well, that answers our question. Definitely no fuel in this system. That tells me that the low pressure pump has failed. Now, part of the reason I'm pretty sure that it's the fuel pump is because if the fuel fuse was missing, then we would be getting a fuel pump code, but we don't have any codes in the DME right now. We did have a starter code in the CAS module, but we cleared that out, and as you can see, the starter works. So the next thing to do is to pull up the rear seats, see if the connector is connected, check the fuse. You know, that's always something you want to do, is check your fuses and kind of go from there. You know, maybe it's out of fuel, maybe there's no fuel and the fuel level sensor is wrong, and that's why it's showing that it has fuel but it doesn't want to start. Here's our fuse diagram. So I think that we're gonna have to check the front fuse box. The rear one is right here, and I believe that the front has the fuel pump fuse. So look at the gas, there you go. So 18, 105, and 122 it looks like. So these X5s have a fuse box in the front as well as the rear. This front one is held in by a little green screw, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to show it to you, but I'm going to grab this screwdriver and loosen that screw, and it should pop down into this area so we can see the rest of the fuses. And then we're going to be looking for fuse number 18. That's the last one for the fuel system that we haven't checked yet. If that one's good, then we're going to go back to the pump and see if the pump is connected, see if we can give it power, if it'll run, and what the situation is. But it might be a dead pump or it might just be a fuse. Let's figure it out. Nope, that looks good. Guess we're gonna have to check the pump. Well, there's the pump. Let's see if we can get those screws off and check the connectors, maybe give it some power and ground, see what it does. Well, I think we got the answer to our question. I've got the cover removed. Let's just go ahead and pull out the cover completely out of the way. And I'm gonna go ahead and use my power probe. These things are really handy for electrical troubleshooting because you can power up circuits that don't have power, test them, see if they work. Here what we're gonna do is try to test the motor. So you can see we have a complete circuit because we have the motor. And when we give it power, you can see it's kind of low on voltage there. We don't get anything. And so that was the case when the car had voltage as well. Probably need to throw this thing on a charger, but I got my jump pack on it right now. So yeah, look at that. Bad fuel pump, needs to be replaced. That will probably most likely get the car started. Well guys, that's going to conclude our video for today. I hate to tease you and not show you the X5 fully running, but unfortunately, you know, the fuel pump is failed, and while we got the car started, the starter turning, we fixed that issue. Obviously there are a couple more surprises probably left on this car. Good thing is it didn't have any engine fault codes, so maybe when we get it started, it should start up and be fine. And yeah. Let me know in the comments down below if you want to see a full other video updating on this X5, or I can just give you guys like a community post and show you like a picture or a smaller video when we get it running. Otherwise, we have a lot more content planned and coming along for the cars that we've had on the channel recently. So just got a ton of parts for the E34. We're going to be doing the valve cover gasket and then also replacing the rear door locks and the door panels on it, kind of getting it freshened up. And then on the E46 wagon, we have a lot of service coming up and some cool upgrades. And also on the M5 wagon, we're going to be doing full power flex front control arm bushing upgrades. So that's going to be a really cool upcoming video. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, please drop a like down below. Give me a comment what you thought about the video. You know, it's kind of cool having an auction car on the channel. Maybe we'll have to buy one of our own one day, see if we can gamble and win on something. And subscribe to the channel if you're new and you love BMW content. So as always, I hope everyone has an awesome day, and we'll see you in the next video.